Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, Black to the Future Advice for San Francisco. Well, as I'm taping this program here today, I have an unwanted guest in the studio, but I'm going to tape anyway. There's a fly in the studio, and I'm just going to deal with it. I hope he likes the program, or she. Anyway, a Black to the Future advice for San Francisco. Now, I'm not a movie buff, and I don't know anything about the movie Back to the Future. Don't know nothing about it. But I'm speaking on the future of blacks in San Francisco today. And it's based on the fact that our mayor-elect, London Breed, has assembled already a team for her transition to give her policy advice. Now, I definitely know from the makeup of the people who are on this, the firm she hired, uh, it's not going to look good for blacks. If they even use the word black in their advice, I'll be surprised. Now, there's 3 white women who are head of this group, but the fact of the matter is it's a team of 20, and that team will be reaching out to 200 others, San Franciscans, for advice for the new mayor. Now, the fact that the next 6 months is going to be rather interesting because people do not know, but there's a black uprising in San Francisco. The fact that we have a black mayor and the head of the Board of Supervisors is another black woman by the name of Malia Cohen. Her colleagues on the board unanimously voted her to replace London Breed as board president. Now, I can honestly say I'm no Malia Cohen fan. However, when I read the article and the praise that was heaped on Malia Cohen for what she did in her time, as just a District 10 supervisor, I said she is the best qualified for leadership for the next 6 months since she's termed out. So the 2 most powerful people in San Francisco politics beginning July 11th will be 2 black women. Now, what is that going to do for the black community? Nothing. I honestly believe that the next 6 months are going to be crucial. And my advice to black San Francisco or black San Franciscans and how we can deal with this situation and take advantage of the fact that the mayor, a black woman, and the president of the Board of Supervisors, a black woman, should be reminded of the egregious acts of racism that San Francisco blacks are dealing with. I was at a rally at the San Francisco coroner's office this week. Now, when you think of the San Francisco coroner, you don't think of harassment. The black employees are being harassed there. Well, I don't get that at all. One was assaulted. Now, I don't know whether that person was black, but one minority, I believe, was assaulted on the job by higher ups. This is unacceptable. But the treatment of black employees at the new San Francisco coroner's office, which is off of 3rd Street here, is very troubling. And though the organizers of this protest were from SEIU's 1021 local union, I saw other people out there who, from the union, that were not SF coroner department employees, but they were other city employees talking about how they black and are being harassed. San Francisco General Hospital employees being harassed, black. Meter, I don't know what they're called, SFMTA, what do you call it, traffic control, black being marginalized, passed over, discriminated against. All of this stuff is going on here in San Francisco in the next mayor's administration, and it should be dealt with. Now, when I say it should be dealt with, I'm telling you, I'm not for protests. I think they're outdated. Rallies and all of these things are fine for certain things, but when I was at this particular protest, you might as well, it was out in the boondocks. The only people there were the protesters and the people in the office building. Now, how are you going to get people to really understand what you're saying if you're tucked away in some corner? I had suggested they do a protest in front of San Francisco Chronicle. Why? San Francisco Chronicle, in my opinion, is very racist in its journalism. They're doing a, what do you call it, homeless project. And they're doing it from the standpoint of not only are they pointing fingers at city leadership for having this problem be so big, but if you read it all, it's a pathetic, you can't do for yourself. We need to help you. We have to help you. Well, quite frankly, I have seen some very, very creative homeless individuals. And I think that instead of showing them the pity that the Chronicle is drumming up, trying to get them a roof over their head, that's the wrong approach. If you show these people respect, that's the best way to, get them to pick themselves up. And a lot of them are black. Now, in this Black to the Future advice, I'm saying that San Francisco, instead of going along with the program of the leadership of this mayor, what's the saying? If the people lead, the politicians will follow. But too often, you get some people in power and others sit back and just think, okay, well, that's the way it goes. Well, many people have criticized Barack Obama for not doing anything for the black community. Well, quite frankly, I disagree. I, 61 years old, I had never thought that I would live long enough to see a black man as president. And for the fact that he was elected president and reelected, hey, if he didn't lift another finger to show blacks something, we should have been able to take from that and go forward. Now, if I could connect a dot, I'm not a fan of Louis Farrakhan, but he was the one who was the organizer for the Black Million Man March on Washington. And I said, well, what did he do? No, nothing good ever came out of that. Then I heard Barack Obama attended, and he was inspired. And I can imagine why he was inspired, because he's seen a whole bunch of black people who had respect for one another. And he said, well, looking at this, my goodness, I'm sure he took what he experienced in that event, and it helped him make the choice easier that he could become president. Now, I think it was 20 years that they recently had their 20th anniversary of that particular march. But the fact that we here in San Francisco have black leadership, are we going to do the same thing that we did when Barack Obama was president? Sit back, fold our hands, and wait for him to do something? I hope not. So my advice to Black San Francisco is, don't you let these two women off the hook. I suggest that you be at all of these board meetings and really let them know respectfully that there are some issues that they can take leadership on in letting San Francisco, mainly city employees, know that if the administration heads are going to permit racism to go on, got to replace the administrative heads. Now, I'm going to tell, of course, a couple of stories about administrative heads allowing certain racist acts to go on. Now, I have to say that this problem is being addressed. I just don't have any confidence that it's going to be addressed right. On July 18th, there is a Board of Supervisors committee meeting. What is it? It's some sort of oversight committee. And they're going to have a hearing on racism and in San Francisco. Now, that's a good start. People don't know this, but 5 years ago, I had sent a proposal to the Board of Supervisors, and the proposal was to adopt a resolution where the San Francisco leadership would apologize to the black communities of San Francisco. Why? I say they owe San Francisco black communities an apology. Of course, it was well written, well researched, but ignored. And so now, 5 years later, there's a hearing to address the issue of blacks being discriminated against in San Francisco. Now, of course, there's going to be an awful lot of people filling a room. These black people are going to be loud and boisterous and out of control, and I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm predicting that. But July 18th, I think in the Board of Supervisors chambers at 10 a.m., there's going to be this hearing where, they're going to get an earful. Well, in doing all of this, my advice also to blacks is if you're not going to show up and be respectable, why show up? You know, the reason why I stopped going to Board of Supervisors meetings to express myself in 2 minutes of public comment is because these people don't listen. Now, when I, a few weeks ago, announced that I would be telling 10 egregious acts of racism perpetrated by city leadership to the board at their regular meeting last week, I had my first one. And after I finished, I was leaving, and one of the sheriffs commented to me, today was the first one. And so I smiled and we talked briefly about it, but I never knew that, people pay attention. Well, the sheriff's deputy was paying attention. I don't know about the 11 members in the board, whether they're paying attention, but I am encouraged. But the fact that I'm telling these egregious stories, I wasn't born yesterday. What did I do? I wrote them all down in a document and I sent it to the Board of Supervisors, all members of them. So even though I'm going to say them publicly, they already have all 10 stories. I might fudge based on different weeks and interject another story. However, I did this because I don't want any member of the board to say, well, I didn't know. Because I didn't get the email, or I get so much of that. I decided, yeah, you're not going to get away with it. I'm sending it to you and I'm publicly speaking. And I'm telling you, these are some egregious acts. The one that I think is going to get the most attention was the one dealing with the San Francisco conviction of a black man on a hate crime when it wasn't a hate crime. Now, I've told that story before, and if you go to my Medium account, just Google Medium, and you either search my name, Alan Jones, or the title of this particular document is Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who is the biggest or the most racist of them all in San Francisco. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most racist of them all in San Francisco? Something like that. Anyway, you'll read these 10 stories. And the point that I'm trying to get across is my advice to San Francisco blacks is we have an opportunity to really make a statement to where San Francisco does start to respect black people. Sure, they showed a little respect to London Breed. Sure, the board showed a little respect to Malia Cohen. But I'm telling you, we are tricking ourselves if we believe that these two black women leading the city of San Francisco is really going to make things work if we just sit back and let them do it. Remember, the policy advice of the company or the company that was hired by London Breed to steer, her or guide her in her administration. Uh, I'm sure they're very qualified individuals. Most of the names I've heard of as longtime San Franciscans. But the fact is, these three white women who are head of it, two of them are lesbian. Not that I'm against anything like that. I'm saying that you can tell that there's going to be a lack of balance. There will not be any equanimity, or there's just no way in the world that a group headed by these people, even though I know that they say they're going to be reaching out to others, is going to really get to the heart of the black experience that is currently going on in San Francisco. And with the dwindling population of blacks and the increasing white population in San Francisco, well, we got to say, hold the phone here, people. And in looking at the whole situation from the standpoint of just being here for so long, I just seen this time and time again where people are assembled as experts and they ain't changed one thing for the better. Now, I understand that London Breed as mayor will be under an awful lot of pressure to clean up the homeless issue. I don't think that they're going to touch first base. Sure, there's going to be an awful lot of people taken off the street, but that's not going to solve the problem. I read in this week's Chronicle, and I'm not even a fan of the Chronicle, there are 50 people a month who are placed in housing. But then there's 150 who come to San Francisco or are become homeless in San Francisco a month. Well, how are you going to get ahead when you got some numbers like that? And though I understand that London Breed is going to try and tackle this and build more housing, build more affordable housing and stuff like that, that's not the answer. What San Francisco needs to do is train or teach the homeless to be clean for the next 2 years. And I guarantee you, they will not only need less help down the road, saving the city a lot of money, but I think that it's going to lead to some of them going in a direction that is so positive, you'll realize, man, why didn't we think of this long time ago? And I know personally, if I see somebody who is really looking bad, sometimes I don't want to offer them help, mainly because the fact that when you look at them, hey, they're not willing to do anything to help themselves. So that doesn't necessarily eliminate them completely from getting help from me. But I'm saying that I've seen some people who were dressed respectable, but they still needed help. And they asked for help. And I looked them up, looked up and down, saw that, hey, they just need some help. And they humbled themselves enough to ask, and boom, more than happy to help them out. And I'm telling you that that is the starting point to where we can get above this situation. Now, I told a story about uh, mobster Whitey Bulger. He killed a dozen people or so, I don't know how many. And he was hiding in Long Beach, though he was like a Boston area mobster. But in his dealing with running and hiding from the federal authorities, he found somebody who looked like him. And so this is from a 60 Minutes piece. So you could look it up, 60 Minutes, the capturing of Whitey Bulger. And in this story, he was in a park in Long Beach somewhere, and he saw this guy that looked like him. And I think the guy was like an alcoholic or something. And he made a deal with him. If you let me use your ID, I'll pay your rent and feed you. And of course, pay for the ID thing renewal. And that was it. That was their agreement. And so for 10 years, this Whitey Bulger, while he was hiding, paid this man's rent faithfully every month. And all he had to do was just let him use his ID. And he did. Now, if a mobster, and keep in mind, Whitey Bulger is accused of killing a woman and then going to have a sandwich and a nap, I think. And so the thing is if Whitey Bulger, as evil as he is, can house somebody with wrong motives, we can't do the same in San Francisco. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is when the federal authorities eventually caught up to Whitey Bulger, he told them about the story of how he eluded them and this guy he befriended and paid his rent for 10 years. He said when the guy died, you know, he was so heartbroken because they became pretty good friends. And he just cared about this individual. Now, the thing is if Whitey Bulger can show care for somebody, even when his original motives were off, why can't we do the same? And so this issue of San Francisco making this transition based on the death of our late mayor, we, San Francisco blacks, have an opportunity to show that we care for ourselves and our own existence. And we don't have to do it with a militant, in-your-face, cussing and fussing type attitude. But we must be firm. And if Whitey Bulger can help somebody, I know I can help somebody with the right motives. And so in San Francisco, helping people is something that I've seen an awful lot. But if we have so much help here, and then there's so much despair here, something's not right. So we need to look at this anew. And I say, black people, don't look for help from London Breed. Help yourself. Till next time.